This is Agronomy Moment. I'm Wendell Cohen.
Okay, Dectes Stem Borer, welcome back everybody. We are going to talk about a little known, sometimes, in some areas anyway, pest that hides away in a very hard to reach spot, which is why it's such a problem.
Yeah, so
Tell us some more about it.
Dectes is definitely been a problem for many years now, and it's not really a pest that is a really big yield robber.
Okay.
It is annoying, I guess is probably a really good way to put that. It comes down to how do you manage for standing soybeans. But before we get into that, talking a little bit about it, the top left picture is a picture of the adult, which is kind of a grayish bluish longhorn beetle, and then transitioning to the right is going to be its egg, and that egg, it's really interesting how the females are really specific about where they lay their eggs. So they're going to lay it in the petiole, and they're going to lay one. So they are really specific about where they lay that egg, and eventually that larvae there is going to cause the petiole to fall off.
So that picture of that egg is inside a petiole of a plant.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that is the stem that connects the leaf to the main trunk of the soybean.
Yep. And also one of the difficult things about Dectes is that they have such a long period of adult emergence. So they're in the slide. There's only one generation a year, but they're going to emerge from June through August. So that's going to become a part of our management. How do you manage them challenge?
Yes.
Because again, only one generation, but if we're having generation from late June to August, that's a lot of activity, adult activity.
And they're only outside of the plant they're outside of the plant for one generation, but they're just always hitting that cycle.
Yep.
And so if you do one application of insecticide, you just capture a week or so of.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, right.
So then once from the egg to the larvae, which is the next picture, there at the bottom right is one of those larvae that they bore into the main stem, and they're going to feed on that pith tissue all up and down that bean, and they're going to overwinter as larvae, which that is where it's going to be the biggest annoyance, is because they're going to girdle the base of that stem, and so they're going to plug. There's a frass plug there, essentially, and that is what is going to essentially cause potentially lodged plants, because there's nothing being able to be transported through that soybean plant, which is what causes its annoyance to us. And then that bottom left picture there is where you can see it being that frass plug there, and then the larvae just above that overwintering.
And you're saying, so why is it so annoying? It's because the plants want to lodge and fall over?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's where that's what we're trying to, we'll get into that, but that's where we are talking about management strategies and what we do there.
Okay. I'm jumping the gun. Let's talk about what you're going to find when you first see them.
So a telltale sign, or easy sign to look for whenever you're walking through your field or something, and you see one kind of broken off petiole, just like you'd see in the picture, kind of sticks out as just one trifoliate just wilting there, and that's going to be our telltale sign, because think about, okay, it's laying that in a petiole, it's boring into the base of the stem, or into this pith of the stem, and that's going to cause your petiole to eventually wilt. So You can also, as you're scouting, split the stem and tell if there's any sort of tunneling, and most likely you're going to find larvae as well. And this can be done from reproductive stages, if that's when they're there, to when the combine is about to go through the field. You can see that.
Could you walk out in July and see larvae that's already went inside the stem of the plant?
It would, you maybe, but it would be, that would be probably a little bit early July, because we're still talking about those adult females emerging and then laying that egg.
Yeah.
So gotta give time for the egg to hatch, and then the larvae, and then to actually bore in, feed on that pith, in order for that to see that kind of wilted, broken off petiole.
And that broken off petiole is what you're going to see somewhere in that June time frame on.
It will, later potentially, I'd say late July, August time frame is potentially when we're going to see that, where we've got our pods on there, typical kind of reproductive stage.
So that worm boring down at the base of the stem, when it's gotten a little older and hatched out and dropped down into that area, is going to be your late August.
Oh yeah. It's going to be how do we manage for harvest at that point, because that's what it's doing. I mean, like I said, boring down that pith and just tunneling out that pith, it isn't a big yield concern there. It's the fact of the matter is, when they start to overwinter and get to the base of that stem and plug it, that's whenever we're going to see potential lodging concerns. And
so, do they not drop to the ground and go inside? They start at the top and burrow from the top, and they just keep eating all the way down?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they don't ever leave the plant?
Nope.
So if you see a broken petiole, chances are you're going to find it somewhere in this process of starting to go down into the plant.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So again, like I said, minimal yield loss most of the time are concerned. It's the lodging that we've got to try to manage there. So, kind of how we manage for this is, Wendell kind of said earlier, of insecticide application, not necessarily recommended because of that really long period where the adults are emerging and would become economically, or not economic to be able to spray multiple rounds of insecticide, just due to having a very long period of adult population trying to target that. I'm going to save the bold one kind of for last. A low speed harvest. If you know you have that, that's being able to take your time going through the field, because if you do have large soybeans, obviously you can't just run your combine through there super quick. Yep. Tillage, it can help, but I'm not a big advocate of, especially in no-till situations where we might get a little bit of suppression, but it ultimately isn't going to reduce our population very much.
And are they above ground or are they below ground by the time they go into winter, when they winter?
They're technically still above ground because they're in the base of that stem. So the base of that stem, basically just right above soil surface, is where they're going to be inside of that stem.
Could they ever pulverize the surface of the soil with like a mower, or just chop it all up?
Oh, you might be able to, I guess.
I don't know. Tillage isn't going to just fracture enough stems and open things up enough, I guess.
Right.
Is that what it's a suppression? You're going to disturb some, but not.
Right, not as, you're going to get a little suppression, but other than that, not really the most effective way, I guess. Crop rotation helps. Trap crop, there's a study out there, I forget where it's from, but has a trap crop to planting sunflowers, because the females much prefer to lay their eggs in sunflowers.
So you plant sunflowers along the roadsides?
So if you planted sunflowers, it's one of the studies says that it reduced infestation to 5%.
Really?
So just kind of a fun little, I don't know, management practice there. I guess if you have problems and really willing to try it.
Do they like pigweed or weeds of
the
this?
cocklebur, ragweed, sunflowers. Yep.
Right.
And soybeans, of course.
Yeah.
But and then longer season varieties.
How does that help?
So whenever a soybean is start to physiologically progress, it's signaling to the larvae to get to the base of the plant.
Okay.
So if we have a little bit longer season of a variety, it's not going to be drying down as quick as, say, our shorter season variety, giving us potentially a little bit longer to get their harvested timely compared to potentially a shorter season variety. So that's the thought behind the long season varieties there. And then the weed control of ragweed and cocklebur
in your field, reduce
ditches, things like that.
Reduce the presence of them in the area.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that differ from the trap crop of sunflowers? If you plant sunflowers, you're going to get more.
Yeah, you're going to get more, but that's where they're going to
hit it instead of the beans.
Yep. And growing at essentially the same time. And then, of course, a timely harvest. So that's the biggest management practice right now that we can do to getting beans harvested timely if we know we have an infestation. We can't control the weather. If we could, well, we probably wouldn't be sitting here. So if situations where if we get a rain that kicks us out of the field, that continues to where we have an infestation, may continue to compile on losses just because we can't get that field harvested timely like we need to. So those are just like rainfall events that can push us back, potentially make lodging worse, or are scenarios where I think of as any time keeping us out of the field. And specifically talking about the infestation of Dectes.
So Dectes, first of all, is a little bit similar as far as a harvest management, similar to what we might go and look for. What's that called in corn? You get the stalk rots. Sometimes you can have a cannibalized stalk in corn, and you want to choose the fields that have the weakest stalk strength. So in soybeans, if you see these symptoms of this, these can be fields you're going to try to target early and make sure you're on time and they're on time.
Yep.
What about the Dectes Stem Borer as it relates to our weather patterns? I felt like here in Missouri, we have not seen it in our area until this last year. But it's been something that's been going on in Kansas for a long time in the dry areas. Is this any correlation to 2023 drought and heat and Dectes, or?
Thinking about the areas and how they, I don't know as far as from a weather perspective if how we can tie all that together. Somebody a lot smarter than me would probably tell you, but I think about Southeast Kansas, Southwest Missouri, by and large being pretty heavy no-till areas.
Okay.
Which is, again, a little bit of a concern because that's where if they're going to stay burrowed down in the base of that stem, then that's where, in those situations where we continue to have that no-till and that residue on top of the ground, even when we do rotate, we're still going to see probably higher pressures. Or areas, river bottoms, for example, where they're going to probably have a more intensive tillage presence or management system, might be a situation where those parts of the world probably wouldn't see big infestations. So as far as the geographies relate to each other, that's what comes to my mind is more of the tillage practices rather than weather events. But as far as the dry, the hot, I don't know
if there would be anything that comes to mind that relates it to weather, would be is we know that rainfall, heavy rains, can kill off bug infestations. Like they tend to not thrive as well as they do in drier conditions. So it's possible.
We also had a pretty mild last year. We had a pretty mild winter.
Oh, that's true.
So maybe there is a little bit something that the winter
there might
before.
be higher mortality rates in cold winters or cold, wet winters.
Right.
Maybe, where the flooding, or I say flooding, just more saturated soils in general.
Right.
deteriorates stock matter and so on. So anyway, thanks for bringing this to us. I think if we did have it in our area this last year, this is something we need to be aware of, and as we move forward, so we're not caught off guard, and suddenly find that we should have been next year in 24 should have been harvesting maybe a week or two sooner, and chose that field there that had the issue.
Yep.
And so on. So anyway, anything else you want to add to wrap up before we go?
Nope. I think that covers it.
Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you guys next time.
If you want alerts on what we are finding in the field, go to topagservices.com/signups to receive alert, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is our goal to bring you the most recent and advanced information possible. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to reach out to us anytime. We also ask you that you give us a like and follow our channel wherever you listen to your podcasts or watch these videos. This ultimately helps us reach more people like you.
Hello?
Hey, this has been Wendell Cohen, your show host. Thank you to all who made this show possible. This show is over. See ya.